for you here today. We're going to talk about the top fishing spots for Lake Gregory. If you've been a subscriber for a while, you know we've already done a video on this quite a while ago, but it's time to do some updated information on this lake and cover all the new spots that are now possible here at Lake Gregory. But before we get into it, make sure you guys are comfortable, get something to drink, maybe something to eat, sit down and relax. We got a lot of information to cover, and we are going to get right into it. So to kick it off, we're going to talk about some lake information and some of the typical stats that you would like to know before you head up to the lake. So before we actually get to the lake, we're going to talk about how you get there. You're going to head up the mountain towards Crestline, California. You're going to go up Highway 18, pretty windy road. And then once you get in there, you're going to see that you're going to make a left toward Lake Gregory Drive. Just look for the signs on the highway and you'll see where you got to go. But once you're in town, again, you just got to probably use navigation to get to the lake the first time. It's a little bit of a maze to get to the lake through the city. But once you get in through the main town here, there are options to stop and maybe get something to eat, McDonald's, 7-Eleven. Some of the local spots in here are pretty decent. But once you get to the lake, you will see some options to go right or left around the lake. Now, this is where you will have to decide based on the information that I give here and figure out where you would rather try first before you get to the lake and actually start fishing. But for the purposes of just kind of talking about the lake, we're going to go from the left side and go around clockwise. So we'll see what spots we can find along the way. A little bit about the lake. It is a very old lake that's been here for a long, long time and was originally designed to be like a recreational lake that it is today. Some lakes in California were actually designed for other things like logging and even some of them trout hatcheries. But this lake was always designed to be a recreational lake, and it still is to this day. Cost about $10 as of today when this video was shot. You might be watching this 5 years from when I made it, but it is $10 to fish the lake, and you can pay for that online, or they have people that will come around the lake and charge you right there in person. This is a little bit of a sensitive topic because there were people walking around scamming anglers that don't even work at the lake. So make sure that if you're going to pay somebody that you are sure that they work for the lake. That is definitely a very important tip. The Lake Gregory Boathouse is a very popular stop off and is easy to get to. There's not a lot of parking for this. Typically got to park out here on the road. You can see there's some road parking right here up on top. There are a few parking spots over here down low, but typically they don't really want people parking down here. It's mainly for operational stuff. But the Lake Gregory Boathouse is a nice little stop and a good place to get some information before you actually hit the water. Typically is open during the day most days. So definitely worth, at least on your first ever trip, to stop in and check that out. So without further ado, let's get into the top fishing spots for Lake Gregory. So for spot number 1, we are going to kick it off right here by the boathouse that we were just talking about. And you will enjoy the upper shores, the north shores of the lake and some of the walking trail. These spots are pretty easily accessed by anybody with some basic mobility. I'm not recommending this as like an ADA fishing area. It does require some walking / hiking to get to it. But you could park up here along the highway, and there are even options here at the Crestline Chamber of Commerce. Now, this parking area does require a payment. As of to this video, it's about $8 to park. So combine that with your fishing price, and you're looking at around pretty close to $20, depending on what the prices are at the time that you go. there was talk that they may change the prices of the parking, but right now that's about what it costs. So no big deal there. But you can park on the street for free. So get there early if you would like that option. But you can see there are trails. There's one of them right here. As I zoom down, you can walk these trails and head down. Now you will see right here, there's a little fence that goes into the lake right here. And this is the dividing line between the operational side of the boat dock area and the actual shore fishing spots of the lake. So from about right here is where the first option to fish. And there are spots all throughout here along this north shore here that you can fish. Now, over the years, these spots have changed depending on the lake level and the growth along the shore. Some of the past concessionaires actually did a lot of maintenance over here and cut down a lot of bushes and stuff to keep the shoreline open for as many anglers as possible. But as of late, they are not maintaining that anymore. In fact, they are cutting down trees that are landing in the lake, and you can see some of them right here blocking some of the better fishing spots. And it does no justice. There's actually quite a few of these out here now. And when you come out to the lake, you will see some of that. But they have been doing that throughout the lake. And this is one of those shorelines that was affected. They said they were doing it for habitat, but it really just ended up blocking fishing spots that were pretty good. But this area is a nice area. The shoreline right here is going to be a little bit tough at times. It's kind of steep getting from the trail down to the water. And again, we will be throwing in drone shots throughout this video. So make sure you guys are checking those out for, more of a direct look at what it really looks like in these areas. But it is a little bit steep, but there is a walking trail, and somebody can just kind of sit up above and observe as you go down and fish the shore. But not a bad place to access the lake. So definitely one of the top fishing spots is right here near the boathouse. All right, moving on to our next spot, which is not too far away from this area. It is the old school spot. Now, this spot has been here a very, very long time, is a known fishing spot. It's called Trout Cove by kind of like its old nickname. That name goes back probably close to 60, 70 years at least. And people have been fishing this area for a very, very long time. Trout Cove, just a nice, quaint little cove. Unfortunately, as you will see in the drone shots, it has been taken up. This is another one of those areas they cut trees down and now take up quite a few of the used to be available fishing spots. So there is only about 2 or 3 really good openings in this area. And outside of that, it is pretty blocked off from angling, but it still remains a very good fish habitat, and historically has always produced some good sized fish and quantity of fish out of this area. Seasonally, it can be very good, and seasonally, it can be very bad. It's very important to be in touch with the timing of when you fish this area to maximize your angling out here. But it is typically a pretty good spot, and it's got some great views of the lake from this area, and accessible by the same walking path as the boat ramp area. You could just wrap around. There's a really good point right here to fish off of and take pictures and such. But this area is also accessible from down here by the Spillway, which we will talk about next. But right here, there's some public parking along here, and then the trail will take you down over this way. Pretty easily accessible, almost ADA accessible. It is a little steep down over this way, but otherwise, once you get down here, the trail is actually very well maintained, and there is a bathroom located in this corner. Kind of gross at times, but it is there for your as an option for the bathroom. But like I said, just don't count on it being the cleanest bathroom you've used. And it is open a little bit later, so early it may not even be open, but definitely a good spot here at Trout Cove. Moving along north along the lake shore, we come to the area known as the Spillway. This is like the dam and the spillway. They just did a lot of construction over here, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But right here at the Spillway, this is kind of a rough spot to fish from shore. It is like a cement and rock dam right here that you can walk down and kind of goat climb down this thing. It's not really a steady shoreline, but it is good. They do have flow of water that flows out of here for a big part of the year, pretty much all winter and part of the spring. There'll be water flowing through here, and fishing can be pretty good out in front. There's a little pipe right here, and this is where they actually can drain the lake, is from that little pipe that you see right here. And there's water markings on there for depth. You'll see where the lake level is based on that. But it's typically about 20 feet average of depth right here. And we'll talk about the overall lake depth in another part. We may even put a little notation here early in the video covering that type of stuff. But pretty deep right here, drops off real nice, and is always a really good fishing spot. Good place to cast a spoon or a jig and kind of change up your typical fishing for the lake. But again, same access, park up here on the road and you're right there, and it's a good spot to fish. So definitely makes one of the top fishing spots for Lake Gregory. Moving north along the shore even further is what we call the North Beach, or some would even call it Sandy Beach. This area has kind of been affected a lot in the last few years. We had some big storms up here, and that has definitely affected the debris that is in the water. They had, the big snowstorm, and then they had the hurricane, and then everything else. So there's a lot of logs and stuff in the water over here now, but it remains a very easily accessed spot. You could park right up here on the highway. Again, free parking all up through here, and typically can fill up by mid-morning on some of the busier days. But if you get out there, you're probably going to have a good parking spot. But this whole cove is always good access. And again, just like pretty much everywhere on this lake, can intermittently be really good fishing. But seasons and time of year definitely play a big role in how good the fishing is in this spot. So definitely plan accordingly, and you will have a lot of success in this area. One of the big draws for this area is how easy it is to get to. You can park right up here on the highway and walk down the trail, and then there's a nice sandy beach over here for you guys to settle in. And some kids even dig around in the sand. I would caution that, especially with kids and dogs. As I've been fishing this lake close to 30 years, and I can tell you I've dropped a lot of hooks in the ground over here, and I'm sure many people have done the same thing. So there's hooks, there's all kinds of stuff in the water, in the sand over here that can poke you. So just be very cautious if your kids are digging around, as they might get stuck by one of those old hooks. Really close to this area are this big rocky area. These rocks were put here to help keep this area from eroding with wave action, and is a very good spot. Water depths drop off real fast in this cove. Right out in front, probably right in this area, after the dredging, it is said that this area exceeds 50 feet. I heard up to around 85 foot of depth, which makes Lake Gregory deeper than Big Bear Lake now. So that was a very good thing that did happen, was when they dredged this lake. But either way, drops off extremely fast right in this area, and is a good place to fish throughout the summer. Can be pretty productive, but again, depends on fish plants and just kind of like the overall condition of the lake. These fish here can be finicky, and all those things kind of play into whether or not this is productive or not. But this is one of the more easily accessed areas of the lake, and definitely a fun spot to stop off. Some really good shore areas to put a chair down and just hang out. Some of these bigger trees do have like squirrels and stuff in there that like to drop uh, things from the trees. So just be aware that if you're up under those trees, that's possible. But yep, a very good spot and one of my favorite spots. In fact, right here under this tree, right there is where I caught my first ever trout. Was actually caught right there. So always a fun spot to for me to visit anyway. So definitely makes one of the top fishing areas here at the North Sandy Beach. So moving south now along the shoreline and kind of southeast, we are moving into these shallow coves. Now, these areas were also known to be like catfish spots back in the day. And it is worded that they put in some catfish not long ago. So these could be returning as good little catfish spots. But the access in these areas is not that great. It's real bushy and woody in here, and there's really not a lot of spots to set up a shore spot, especially along this shoreline right here. You begin to see some access on this side of the cove, and down all and through here, there's some good spots. Can be very, very productive. Again, depending on the time of year, the only downer is there's not a lot of public parking up on the highway here, like there is in other areas. So one of those places that you're better off walking from a parking lot that's located to the south of here that we'll cover in a minute. But definitely makes a good fishing area, and it is kind of a way to get away from other people. But any given weekend, this can be just as busy as any other spot. It really depends on where people decide to set up shop. But not the greatest access over here, and again, kind of bushy in some areas, and there are very limited spots over here. But because of the habitat, does make a very, very good spot to try, and will make the top fishing spots. So moving down now we are getting into one of the more known, more heavily used areas of the lake. This area is historically called the Old Baseball Diamond. And before the last concessionaire took over, this place used to be an old baseball diamond, but they pretty much, as you can see, wiped it out and just made this big grass area. That was not a popular decision, as it kind of eliminated a nice field for the kids to play on. But it is just a big grass area now. It's mainly like a giant dog park. But you could see they did put in a little tackle store for you to buy a couple of goodies. And I'd say just buy your own stuff before you head up here, because I'm sure that whatever they got in there is probably triple the price of what you would find at a local tackle shop or even at Walmart. But you can buy a few things from there. There is a bathroom here that is, again, not the cleanest, but there is a bathroom located in this building. And like the one time I tried to use it, it was locked anyway. So, but here's one of those public parking areas. It does cost money to park here. You got to pay either through the app, or I believe they had some machines out here to take that. But this area is a very good area. Now, this is one of the few ADA spots to fish. Why? Because you could park right here and fish right there. You could literally fish out of the back of your car, and it is a great spot for somebody who cannot walk very far. So if you got an old, grandpa, grandma combo that you want to take fishing, this is a great place to do that. If anybody that that is just not that mobile, this is one of those places. Get there a little early so you can get a spot, and then back your car up, and there you go. You guys are fishing less than 20 feet from your car. Easy to do. Definitely recommend it. So what makes this a good fishing area is the habitat. It's a very shelfy area. So meaning it doesn't drop off here, but it is about 8 to 10 feet deep, maybe in the middle out here. And it's very consistent and has like a warmer water feel. The fish just love hanging out over here, and has always been, going way back, has always been a great, great spot to fish. Now, again, this area did get dredged, and they took a lot of dirt out of here. And so over this way, it drops off pretty good, and it just gets deeper as you go north out of this bay. But this whole area, as you can see by the drone shot, it's just a really good spot to fish, and it's just a great accessible place for you guys to pull up and walk over. Now, this southeast corner right here is a little bit dicey. There's a little bit of a cliff right in here, but the further east you go along here, it kind of smooths out and becomes more flat. But right over here where this tree is, it's kind of like a cliff, a little bit of a drop off. Now you can see there is a natural inlet to the lake right there, and this creek will flow. And anytime it rains or snows, this little creek is flowing. And you can see it got blown out pretty good before this satellite shot was taken. This happened in that last year of major snow, that when they received over 10 feet of snow up here on the mountain. We'll likely not see that anytime again soon, but it was blown out pretty good and still flows even to today from those snowstorms. And will flow, like I said, any given winter, it's going to flow if it rains or snows. This area in the same habitat, but along the kind of like the west southwest shore, is a little bit tougher access over here, and does require some bushwhacking and some trails over here, but has grown in popularity in fishing as people want to just get away from everybody. The only downer is with the parking lot over here, you tend to get people that will open the doors to their car and just blast their radio. And they think that, that it's great for them, but the rest of the lake gets to listen to that. So it can get a little loud over here, but fishing wise, it is pretty good. So that's why it definitely makes one of the top fishing spots. So moving around the lake to some of our final spots for Lake Gregory is what I like to call the Southshore Point. Now, this is one of the more remote areas of the lake. This whole side, this whole south point right here is pretty remote. There's not a lot of parking here. The access for people with mobility issues isn't the greatest, but if you're feeling adventurous, this is a great place to just grab a box of lures and and just kind of walk around into these different areas over here and try casting along this South Shore. Definitely pretty good. There are a few spots to park out here on the highway, but some of these get taken up by the walkers or hikers of the lake. So definitely go early, and you can park there for free, and you'll be fine out there along the road. But there are some trails that lead around over here. One of the goods is there's a main trail. You can see it right here. Almost looks like a road. That's like a main walkway around here. It's pretty scenic, but there's also a secondary trail, and you can kind of see it right there. Along there, there's a little fisherman's trail, as it were, along the bottom. And this trail along in here is the one I'm talking about that you can use to fish this whole side. This is a fun area, but again, very woody. Some areas are tough to cast. If you're not very good at casting, you're going to end up casting into the trees right here. As some of these areas where you cast out, it's very narrow to get to the water. So you got to be really good at casting, and you guys will have a good time trying in this area. But it is affected by water level. The higher the water level is, the tougher the shore access can get. So make sure you guys are prepared for that. But definitely makes the top fishing spots for Lake Gregory. Moving to our last location is this South Shore Parking Lot. This is one of the main parking lots you can see here, and it does cost money to park here. As of late, I've seen a lot of people just not even paying to park here, but that's up to you. It does technically cost money to park, but there is some great access along this rail. I don't know if anybody took any pictures in here. There might be one, but we'll throw the drone shot in here also but this will give you an idea of what it looks like down there. You can see this railing. Now, people are fishing along this rail, and I don't necessarily recommend it because once you catch a fish, you got to be able to net it, and to reach over this net or this railing is a real pain and is not easy to do. But as you can see, if I zoom in here, this is an old shot of what this looks like. Now you'll see from the drone shot, I'll throw in the drone shot right here. You're going to see some changes that were made in here. There's a lot of trees that have been cut down that are now blocking some of these spots. So it's not quite as nice as it used to be, but that is how it used to look. But nowadays, you're going to see a lot of people fishing along this rail because of that whole area, this whole area being blocked by a whole bunch of trees in the water now. So it kind of forced everybody over here. And, that's not quite as good as it used to be. But nevertheless, people are fishing there and they're having success. And it is easy to do outside of netting your fish. It could be quite difficult to net a fish over that railing. So bring a net with a really, really long handle, and you guys will be able to get them over that. Some people just bring like a heavier line test on their rod, like 8-pound test, and just horse the fish over the top of the railing. And that makes it easier to do it that way. But either way, very accessible, and it's a huge, huge parking lot. You never have to worry about being able to park here. There's always room to park. And if nothing else, you could park here and walk the shore and access to some of the remote areas over this way and use the fisherman's trail or the walking trail to get to it. But once you get over here, this is where it gets cut off, and there is a fence right here, and you cannot fish this shoreline from there basically all the way into this whole area. It's just off limits. It's just an area they haven't opened up. I really wish they would open this up to fishing. But as of today, and for as long as this lake's been in existence, they haven't been able to fish over here. So maybe one day they'll open that up and we'll get some more options and where to fish. But so that concludes this video. And up next, we'll talk about some last thoughts on Lake Gregory fishing. So some of my final thoughts are that this lake has always been and will probably continue to be a good option for Southern California fishing, both catfish, trout. The latest concessionaire has definitely fallen off in their planting. They used to do a lot of private plants here, and as of the last couple of years, that's fallen off quite a bit. And it's really the only good saving thing here is that the Fish and Game is continuing to plant this lake like they always have. This has received Department of Fish and Game trout for a very, very long time, and we'll always get fish from them. And so that's kind of what's saving it. You probably see videos recently posted on my channel showing some of those Fish and Game trout are kind of small, but it does give some fish in action for people. And, it really doesn't matter. Anything to get you guys outside and fishing. So if you guys have any other questions about this lake, and, put them in the comments section below. If you guys got any tips, same thing. We'd love to hear what you guys think of Lake Gregory in the comments section. But if you guys have any more questions or really just have no idea what you're doing, stop by my Patreon. We do weekly reports and even giveaways once a month over there. So that's where all the new fishermen and some even older fishermen that are just looking for new information on some of these places. I tend to fish these places every week and always have the latest information on what's going on out there. So definitely recommend that. Other than that, hit that subscribe button. We love to see you guys on the next fishing adventures. And we got lots of more top fishing spots for a lot of other lakes coming up soon on the channel. So we will see you guys out there on the water, and looking forward to the next time we fish. Bye for now.